No, I'm dead.
Oh, no! Clean!
Oh, man. Dude, I thought I was good. Rip.
Fuck! I started playing this little-known game called Mortal Online 2 approximately 2 weeks ago, after watching a stream where my friend Clean had decided that he was going to start trying it out, and after a short while decided that I too was going to end up diving into this interesting exchange of PvP, player-driven economy, player-driven housing, PvE experience, and some interesting Mordhau-esque combat. So the reason why I'm playing this game is because Clean talked me into it. It's his fault. Blame him. No, really, it's his fault. Blame him. Seriously though, before I get into this review of this game and start talking to you about how much I absolutely love this game, I think it's important to mention that I am not being sponsored by StarVault, the people that produce this game. No one gave me any money. I wasn't even given a free CD key. I don't have a free game code, pass, whatever. I paid retail price for this just like everyone else. So my thoughts about this game are my own, and they are coming from the standpoint of someone that has played a lot of hours of this game up till now. Maybe not as much as the OGs, obviously, but has put in a good number of hours into this game trying to learn it, and at the same time am someone that bought my way into it, just like any other normal gamer. Okay? Okay. The first time that I tried playing this game lasted about 30 minutes. I ended up starting off in this newbie tutorial area called Haven, which gives you a bit of a reprieve from the mainland while you work to learn how to use the combat systems, the crafting systems, and ultimately try to gain a little bit of experience in fighting some online AI mobs before you end up going into the main world. And the only problem was when you went to go into the main world back then wasn't letting you in. On launch, Mortal Online had a major problem. It only has one server in the world. Only one server. And it's located in the EU and only has a server capacity of 1,500 to 2,000 people. And on launch, when this game went to its 1.0 live release from beta, there were approximately 9,000 to 10,000 people trying to log into the game, of which the game had no automatic kick feature for people sitting AFK in the game, meaning that the other 7,000+ people that were waiting in a queue would never end up seeing the actual game. They ended up returning it, and now there's approximately 1,000 people to 1,500 people or so still playing. So why am I talking about this little-known MMO that developed from an old-school sandbox MMO called Mortal Online from, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago? For those of you unfamiliar with me, my name is Onepeg. I stream every day on Twitch from 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or so until whenever I get bored, and then I call it a day. I do this 7 days a week, and then I upload a YouTube video about twice a week on average. And obviously, if you haven't come and watched my stuff, I would ask that you continue to please watch my stuff. It's how I make a living. But I'm primarily known for playing a survival-esque game, and one that is relatively hardcore in nature, called Escape from Tarkov, for those of you unfamiliar with my content. And this game draws an awful lot of parallels. In my mind, it's almost like an Escape from Tarkov junkie decided to go to the Renaissance Fair. There's things like a permanent-ish sense of loss when you end up dying. Your body becomes lootable by everyone. There's a lot of player interaction. There's a lot of PvP. It seems very group-oriented, meaning you have a much easier time in this game when you play as a group versus playing by yourself. And there's an awful lot of interesting environmental challenges, both in the terrain and navigating it and trying not to have your horse or you fall to your death, and also in the sense of there's a lot of things in the world that are trying to kill you, both designed to be something that you might be able to beat alone if you have good tactics, or stuff that is designed to be taken on by a larger party. Mortal Online is obviously a medieval themed game. Horses, big suits of armor, bows, arrows, different types of melee weapons, and magic fantasy stuff. Now that sounds like it's really simplistic in nature. And I want to make it very clear that Mortal Online is not simplistic in nature. It is actually one of the most complicated and complex MMOs, especially with the crafting system, that I have ever seen, and I mean that in a good way. For instance, let's say if you wanted to be an alchemist. In a game like World of Warcraft, you would be given a recipe list. There's all these opportunities to create all of these different potions, and you would just scroll down the list to whatever materials were required to make that recipe, hit the craft button, and voila, you have a potion. Just like every other potion that exists. In Mortal Online, it doesn't work that way. In Mortal Online, there is no recipe book. In Mortal Online, you have to travel around. pick all kinds of different plants and herbs and different rare or common or semi-rare materials, and then mix those materials together in different quantities. Then in combining them, you get an idea of what that potion becomes. Either something that generates health, potions that end up being poisonous to you. In some cases, they can be potions that either make you grow taller or shrink shorter, whereby augmenting your stat points to go along with however your stature has been modified. In the health potions, for instance, the ones that will heal you, some of them are designed to give you some level of instant healing, and others are designed to heal you over time. And when you make the potion, the yield that you get will depend not only on your level of skill in potion making and the materials that you are using in whatever quantities that you're supposed to be using them in order to generate whatever that yield is, but also your level of understanding of the individual ingredients. Because in a game like this, the level of understanding that you have for basilius leaves could be a mastery level, but the thing that you are mixing it with, whatever that may be, you may have only a rudimentary level of understanding. And not having a mastery in the lore behind every one of the ingredients that you're putting into that potion will ultimately affect the yield that you see from it. Meaning that someone who has been, I guess, well read in each one of the ingredients and alchemy in general and the tool usage, the bench that you're actually using, along with lore surrounding other pieces and parts and general understanding of botany, will be the person that generates the best overall possible potion once they've experimented their way through the system. And that's the most interesting part about this game. Everything that is done in Mortal Online has to be done. It's all done in the doing. The adventure of Mortal Online is just that, an adventure. It's all about discovery. Consider a large-scale MMO with a massive budget, like New World, for instance. By the time New World left its beta phase, everyone in the game that had been paying attention to what was going on in the beta phase already had the entire path to travel to do whatever it was that they were planning on doing mapped out for them. The game had already been solved. The adventure was over. And in the sense of a game like New World, when it came out, there were video guides, infographics, articles that were written inside of forums that led everyone through everything that you wanted to know every step of the way, interlocked fingers and all. And the mysticism that makes a game like New World fresh and interesting gets tarnished by people that had done it all before during those beta periods and just posted them all online. So the idea of adventuring through the adventure is no longer adventurous. Mortal Online doesn't do that. It's the exact opposite. Try searching for an alchemy guide to make the best potions in the game, or a cooking guide even on recipes that would allow you to make the best possible food. There aren't any. There are how-to guides that will show you how to do the process, but the guides that exist are all about showing you how to plant those little seeds of knowledge to have you take the path yourself. They just show you the door to travel down the road to learn it all. They're not going to show you a step-by-step manual on how to yield the best possible crop. The newest magical school that was added, for instance, was necromancy. The patch notes said, we added necromancy to the game. You had to discover how you were going to find the ability to even learn the necromantic way. Then you had to find where the scrolls were to put into your spell book in order to be able to cast any of them. Not to mention finding where the reagents came from in order to be able to cast those spells in the first place. None of that was available online. And to an extent, it still isn't. For instance, if you wanted to become a necromancer, somewhere on the 350 plus square kilometer map is a single vendor, technically two, but a single vendor that for 10 gold will sell you a set of necromancy notes that will teach you the skill, the most basic skill necessary to become a necromancer. But if you try to look up that exact pinpointed position, as of the recording of this video, anyway, it doesn't exist. There are hints, but the easiest way to figure out how to do anything in this game is just to ask people in the game. Mortal Online 2 is brutal, and I mean brutal. The moment that you step foot out of Haven, you become a potential target for everyone. At any point in time in the main world, someone can walk up to you, stab you in the back, kill you, take all of your stuff, and you are left a spirit above your now corpse in the ethereal realm, floating endlessly as a pair of red eyes on a grayscale world where you have to find a priest to resurrect you so that you can resurrect as a completely naked person and then either go back and try to find your loot bag that just dropped on the ground, which is now probably empty, or figure out a way to get another set of gear to go back and do it all over again. The moment that you step foot onto the mainland, you become a potential target. And the thing that turns people away from a game like this one is the fact that it is full loot PvP. You need to survive, in essence, in order to be able to make your way through this game, which is why this game is always better played with friends. But the group combat in this game is also one of the most balanced experiences I think I have ever been a part of. There seems to be a counter for just about every type of offense, and vice versa. And it really comes down to not just a good team composition, but also coordination of the people that you're playing with in order to overcome the opposition. And during combat interactions, it also comes down to individual, I guess, performance. For example, last night I was playing this game alongside Clean and some other people, and while we were in the midst of a massive 6v6 fight, Clean ended up literally at 1 hit point, meaning that the next time he got hit by anyone, he would end up dead. He parried for 0 damage 5 separate death blows from people. 5, if only then to finally receive a heal from one of us and get himself back up to about 80% HP after we spammed some crazy-ass heals on him. And this panic moment came after the melee that we were fighting decided that they were going to focus me, the mage, the guy healing and debuffing people, and I needed a peel, desperately needed one, or I was going to end up dead because mages are squishy. All of this ultimately culminating into a victory for us with 0 losses because we did okay. We fought pretty well and we had good comms. Other people aren't so lucky, and the people that we beat, well, we took all of their stuff. That's what happens. But people, because of this, have a tendency to be shied away from the game when they realize that their gear doesn't stay their own gear. Instead, it becomes gear that has to be created by players, either by you or by other players, gear that you would then wear yourself, or you would end up purchasing off of a marketplace. Same thing with horses, same thing with weapons, and then only go out into the world to potentially lose that all over again, including any other reagents. Let's say if you're a mage that you would also potentially lose if you were out there by yourself and got caught. But for all of that, there is a brilliance to this game that I don't believe people can deny. From a netcode perspective, for instance, when we talk about varying levels of detail at distance, this game offers views of literal miles in linear directions. If you stand up in a high point on the map, on a mountainside, let's say, and decide to take a look around, you can see a layout spanning miles and miles below you. The map is absolutely huge. At the same time, and this is unlike any other survival or any other game for that matter that allows for player-constructed housing, you typically would have to get within a certain render range of a building that a player placed on the ground in order to be able to see it. Not in Mortal Online. It seems as though when those player houses are put down on the ground, they become a part of the landscape, where the netcode and the level of detail as it varies in distances ends up showing you that physical building no matter how far away you are. If it's somewhat capable for you to see any real level of detail at distance, the idea is that you would be able to see it. If you're standing on top of a cliffside overlooking a vast valley, there's a player house in the middle of it somewhere, you should be able to see that house. And in Mortal Online, you can. It gives the landscape a feeling of being actively modified by its player base in a way that is real, it is visceral, and it's something that you can not only see and touch, but can ride right up to and notice all of the work that has gone into what the players are creating as they move through the world. That is unlike anything I have ever seen developed in any MMO, regardless of its subgenre, ever. And the rewards for accomplishing certain things in this game are based around what the players are able to do with it. Let me explain. In the game, for instance, there are several different spider dungeons. It's caves, really. And you get to the end of it, it's a dungeon, you get to the end of it, and there's a large spider queen at the end. In a group fight, you work your way through, and you finally overcome this massive, giant spider queen with exploding eggs and all these little spider minions that attack you. And when you're finally able to beat them, they don't give you anything special. You end up getting an egg off of their body. The question is now, what do you do with the egg? Well, there's a trader in town somewhere that will allow you to be able to trade that egg for a skill book. That skill book teaches you how to spin blood silk, which is a very, very high-end crafting component, one of the highest-end crafting components in the game. From that blood silk, you can use that to line armor that makes the armor not only light, but also versatile, giving you much better slash protection against slashing weapons than any other armor in the game. You just need to get the silk from the spiders. Now, if you're the first crafter that ever got that book, imagine how valuable your armor would be. It would be absurd. And that's the value that the game like this one brings. Because everything in the game more or less is expendable, everything becomes reliant on everyone else. You can't specialize in it all. You can only specialize in a couple of different disciplines, and there are a lot of them. And because you only have the ability to specialize in a couple of different things, that means that other players have to specialize in the things that would support it. And at some level, they are all intertwined. And since everything is degradable and expendable, for the most part, you have always got someone that needs your services that they will pay you for. So the money keeps moving. And all of those things are great, but I think the real stroke of genius in this game is the forward look, the things that they're planning on doing, because they're trying to rebuild Mortal Online in a way that is better than what the original game was. At some point, they're going to develop siege mechanics because there are keeps on the map, 15 of them that players own. They're owned by individual guilds. At some point, there's going to be the ability to declare open war, and full siege engines will take advantage of trying to bombard these keeps, break down the walls, get in, and take it over, switching territorial control. There's the idea of developing player-run towns complete with their own vendors, and marketplaces, and trade routes, and different additional combat disciplines like thievery, the ability to pick other people's pockets, pick locks, or elementalism, where you can call down rain of fire on top of unsuspecting people, or fire ice bolts at other folks. Not to mention the enchanting things that you could do by, like, augmenting your own armor with earth magic, or enchanting someone's arrows with ice. But even in the existing schools of magic that they have in this game, there seems to be some extra thought that went into them. For instance, there's traditional stuff like your calling down of lightning bolts onto unsuspecting people, or debuffing healing, all of those things. And yeah, they added necromancy where you can summon undead stuff, and corpse explosion and all those fun things. Really, really cool. But one thing that I've never seen really done in any video game is a utility like spiritism. Spiritism, for example, allows you to not only commune with spirits in the spirit world by granting you sight to be able to see them moving around, you also have the ability to transport yourself into the spirit realm. And in doing so, seeing not only players but also NPC spirits, you have the ability to dominate those spirits, beat them, and harvest the souls from those giant spirits. You capture them in soul vessels, these big jars that contain X number of souls or an amount of soul energy. That is used as fuel to be able to cast additional spells, not only for the Spiritism school, but also for other disciplines like necromancy. This causes a reliance across mage disciplines. Not to mention that as a spirit in the spirit world, or by using a portal to transport yourself into the spirit world, you can then grant yourself the ability to see people walking around in the, meat world as a spirit, which you normally wouldn't be able to do. This allows you the ability to scout your enemies as a spirit. And then if they also have a spiritist, you end up being in these spirit battles between you to see who's the smarter spiritist, banishing the other one far away to a priest that would resurrect you maybe a mere half-hour walk away from where you once were. Herein lies the brilliance of Mortal Online 2. A lot of people that look at this game that have been playing it for a long time will tell you that there's a lot of jank and it lacks polish. And it absolutely does. All of those criticisms are valid, but the game's bones, the foundation, the actual framework of the game is undeniable. And if they are able to pull off the things that they're looking at doing in the upcoming months and years as the development of this game progresses, this game will be unlike any MMO I have ever played ever. It's already like that for me because I never played Mortal Online 1, but the scope of what they're trying to accomplish is just awesome. It's commendable, and if they are able to pull it off, it will be MMO of the year, if not Game of the Year, the moment that all of that stuff happens. I hope for the sake of the genre that they are able to pull this off, because I really want to play that game. Very much so. I love playing this game as it is, but I very much want to play that one. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. Thank you so much for coming and checking this out. I very much appreciate your time, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.